I'm here tonight, as I suspect you are, because I'm interested in representative democracy. Thomas Jefferson talked about government with the consent of the governed in the Declaration of Independence. We're still striving for it on Roosevelt. That's why we're here. There are a few people that need thanking tonight, and I want to start with RIOC, who made this space available to us, made the sound system available to us, and very appreciative. A few other people I'd like to recognize tonight, starting with Aaron Hamburger. Aaron, where are you? Would you stand up? Aaron Hamburger was in charge of the nomination procedure. He is responsible for this fine slate of candidates here and seeing them through the nominating process, which was not easy. I'm very grateful for that. Secondly, this one's easy for me. I want to recognize my wife, Sherry Helston. Where is she? Sherry, stand up. Oh, there she is. Sherry was responsible for all of the publicity you've seen around the island. She and her crew have put up every sign, every poster, every banner. There's enormous banners at the ramp turnaround, at the subway, all of the smaller banners on the kiosks, at the tram. Every piece of signage you've seen started with her, and the door drops in the Liar buildings that are going to be following in the next few days are also her team. Thank you, Sherry. This entire process has been overseen and archived for future generations by Ashton Barfield, who is also our timekeeper this evening. Ashton, you deserve it. When you come out on Tuesday to vote, either downstairs in this building, or at the Octagon, or at 455 Main Street for Southtown, you will find an army of people, poll workers facing you. Ashton put that group together. This has been no mean feat, let me tell you. And if you are available on Tuesday, if you can give us a couple of hours of your time, all our slots have not yet been filled. Please see Ashton before the end of this evening. Volunteer a couple of hours to get this election on the road. This is an enormously labor-intensive process, and it's going to take all of us to make it a success. What constitutes success? Number one is the quality of our candidates. And as you'll find out tonight, these are people who are committed to a process that is not a guarantee. What are we doing here? We are electing people that we will then present to the governor, who may or may not appoint them. What a screwy deal that is. But it's the one we are faced with. How did this begin? 15 years ago, a small group of us started working with the legislation that created RIOC with the intention of putting together a board of directors directly elected by us. Because for all intents and purposes, RIOC is our local government. They are the people who make the kinds of decisions that local governments throughout the United States make. And yet, for many years, we had no control over any of the decision-making they made. Why? Because when Roosevelt Island was invented, nobody lived here. It occurred to nobody to include the residents at the decision-making table, to include us in that process. 2004, Governor George Pataki, of all people, created a law that required this 9-person board to be composed of a majority of island residents. That was the foot in the door. 3 successive governors have now added their voice to this process. Governors Spitzer and Patterson endorsed the elections we put on in 2008 and 2009, which put 6 residents on the board by virtue of election by us. That's the important point. By us. That's what we're trying to continue now, and Governor Cuomo has not given us a guarantee that that is the case. However, if we present him with candidates with impeccable credentials and a turnout at the polls that is enormous, how can you possibly turn us down? So please, when you go home tonight, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell anybody you can stop to come out and vote. If they are over 18 years of age and live on Roosevelt Island, they can vote. We have the tenant list of every building on Roosevelt Island. We can make sure they're legit. If your neighbors say, oh, I'm not a U.S. citizen, they can vote. This is the kind of election which is a community election. Anyone who lives here is eligible. Please have them come out. So let's talk about the format. Here's what's going to happen tonight. First off, you see I've carefully arranged this in alphabetical order, very difficult. We're going to start off with opening statements, 3 minutes each for each of the candidates. They can talk about their life on Roosevelt Island, the issues that are concerned to them, anything they like. At the end of those opening statements, you're up. We have a microphone set up for you and a podium. You can line up and ask your questions with the following provisos. Number one, we're going to limit the question and answer period to 1 hour. This is a work night, this is a school night. We want to get people home at a reasonable amount of time, still having accomplished what we came here to do. Please leave the statements and the speeches to them. That's what they're here for. Keep your questions short and sweet. If you hear somebody else asking your question or an approximation of your question, let it go. Either come with another question or just stay seated. We're trying to get as many island issues discussed this evening as we possibly can, and so we would really like to avoid repetition. At the end of that 1 hour period, the candidates will have an opportunity to make closing statements. Those closing statements can be continuations of their opening statements. They can be more thoughtful responses to questions they've heard during the Q&A, or they can be rebuttals of what other candidates have said, entirely up to them. At the end of the closing statements, we have 2 important things to do. Number 1, go home. Number 2, vote on Tuesday. The turnout of these elections is essential to establishing our credibility, so it's up to all of us. This event has been put on by RIOC. But this is the property of the entire island. We all have a stake in how this election turns out. Finally, there's one other segment of this population that I want to thank. That's our candidates. Please give them a round of applause. These folks understand the difficulty of getting elected, then getting appointed, and then serving in a $30 million a year public benefit corporation. And they've taken on the job, and they deserve an awful lot of credit. So that's really all I have to say. Let's get going.
It's a privilege to stand before you today as a candidate for the board of RIOC. And I am here because I believe in the vision of Roosevelt Island, a diversified community that serves all its residents. I believe that I have the ability to address the complex issues facing this island as an independent and fair-minded individual.
Who are you?
Oh, who am I? I'm Grace Bernstein. I've been here for 30 years, and I think I recognize most of you. Sorry you didn't know my voice. I'm sorry I didn't introduce myself first. I was an administrative law judge for the Division of Parole for 20 years. I learned how to listen, how to evaluate different arguments. I learned the value of negotiations and the necessity of making the hard decisions. I was a parole judge for the Harlem Community Justice Center. I learned how to look outside the box when addressing the problems of parolees recently released to the community. As a family court hearing officer, I realized that sometimes there just isn't enough money to go around, but the support order has to be made nevertheless. As an attorney, I learned that it is not the flamboyant lawyer that wins the case, but rather the lawyer that puts the time and energy into doing the research, the investigation, and the preparation. As a teacher and a mother, I learned how to smile, how to expect the unexpected, and how important our children are as a national and natural resource. They are the future. As a woman, a single woman and a retiree, I am once again reminded of how lucky I am to be on Roosevelt Island. It is such a supportive community. It is such a dynamic community. There's always something to learn, some place to go, and something else to see. Last week I was in the Senior Citizen Center, and they're teaching Arabic at 10 o'clock on Monday mornings. You just have a wealth of things to do and to see here. If elected, and if I'm appointed by the powers that be, I promise to use my energy, my time, and my expertise to serve the residents of this island to the best of my ability.
Thank you. Thank you, is our next candidate.
Good evening. My name is May Christian. I am presently serving on the RIOC Board of Directors. I am on the committee for the Real Estate Committee. My term has expired. However, I am seeking re-election, and I'm here to ask you to vote for me on this upcoming re-election next Tuesday. I've lived on the island for 34 to 35 years. I haven't quite got it right yet, but I'll figure it out soon. But my daughter, I arrived when my daughter was 4 years old, and I've lived in Westview. I was on the Westview Task Force, and I resigned when I became a member of the RIOC Board of Directors. I was also an interim acting RIOC, a member from Westview. And presently, I'm a teacher here on Roosevelt Island. I know many of the parents and the children. I enjoy and care about our community. And it's probably one reason why I'm a teacher, but I really enjoy working with the children. I would like to see many things that we have. I would like to see many programs for our young adults here on the program, the ones who are out in the street, standing around. We'd like to keep them busy, give them something to do, maybe some activities. And I am presently working with a group right now where we're trying to get that going here on the island. In fact, we have a pilot program going on at the sports park. I'm also involved with the Roosevelt Memorial Project. I have been very involved with the school, as I've said before. But I really would like to tell you that as a member of the RIOC Board of Directors, I ran it first because I thought it was very important that we let the governor know that we care about our community and we would like to be involved. And I said at first, well, I don't know, I don't think I have the skills. And then I thought about it. I said, well, you know what? I can learn. And that's exactly what I have done. It has taken me, and I'm still learning. It's taken me this long, and I'm still learning, and I think we all will say that. I have learned that it will, in order to make a difference, it takes all of us. And it's not an easy job when you have other responsibilities and you have other commitments. And you have this greater commitment with RIOC. We have learned to work together. I feel those board of directors, those of us who were all together, we learned to work together, and we learned that it's important. Even if we disagree, we were able to come to an agreement. And sometimes you can see at the RIOC meetings that we were disagreeing about some things, but that's okay. But I want you to know that I'm willing to run again, and the main reason I'm really running is because I feel that I can make a difference. I may not always be satisfied with my positions, but I'm willing to listen, and I'm flexible. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything business next?
Good evening. I've been living on Roosevelt Island since 1976. I guess that's 35 years. I brought my 3 children here from Harlem. We lived in Eastwood first, and then moved to Westview, and I currently live River Cross. One of the main reasons that I wanted to be nominated for this office is so that I could bring to the attention of the community crimes that are being committed, and they're being committed against me. In River Cross, for over a year, my apartment is constantly being burglarized. In fact, this last week, or just yesterday, I changed my lock for the 14th time in the last year. But that's not the most important thing. The most important crime that is being committed is that electromagnetic radiation is being sent into my apartment. This is done actually I looked online and I saw there are devices where you can do that. And if a buildup of that could possibly kill me. I believe this is being done possibly because I was part of a group that was against privatization. I'm not sure, but it's been going on for more than a year. I call the NYPD, I call public safety. NYPD won't even come anymore. Public safety will respond. And I asked them to go up to the apartment over me, 511, to ask to get the name of the person who's there, to check their ID, because I had gone to court. I had gone to housing court to try to start action, but they will not do anything because I do not have the name of the person who is in that apartment. I believe that person has been put in that apartment by the management of River Cross. And the management is the manager and the board. I have asked Mitchell Hammond for the name of the person who is in 511. He refuses to give me the name. So this is the reason I have come to, that I have requested people sign for me to be nominated, so I can bring this to the attention.
Good evening. I'm Dottie Jeffries. I'm a three and a half year resident of Roosevelt Island. I'm very pleased to be here this evening. I think it's a very exciting day because of New York One's excellent coverage of the announcement of the first ever underwater farm in the East River. The Burton Power received a license from the Federal Regulatory Commission to expand, and it's another great benchmark in the history of Roosevelt Island, and certainly gets the message out that the island embraces innovation and energy exploration. I just want to say first and foremost, as a RIOC board member, I will be serving the residents of Roosevelt Island. I'm a staunch supporter of the island's diversity, as well as the legacy of its namesake, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. I'm also one who celebrates the original mission and concept of Roosevelt Island when it was redeveloped in the 70s, and want to see that continue in terms of affordable housing and community diversity. I have a background, I'm a public relations professional. I have a background in doing communications for a variety of clients, including those in architecture and urban planning, as well as healthcare. So I think that my understanding of the built environment and critical best practices in planning will be very valuable in my role as a RIOC board member. I'm particularly interested in serving at this juncture in the island's history with the exciting work that's being done on the retail aspect of the island, and also with the arrival and development of Cornell Technion's campus. I think the educational expansion there is very exciting, and I would work very hard on making sure early on that the island is working with Cornell on finding the best solutions to those aspects of the island that we will share in common. Energy solutions, transportation issues, refuse issues, and making sure that we can work together and leverage the resources and visibility of Cornell to to solve and work with these issues in a way that's going to be mutually beneficial to both the campus as well as to the residents of the island. I'm very active on the island. I play tennis in the Roosevelt Island Tennis Association. I'm a staunch supporter of the library, as well as the post office. And I will make sure that Cornell works with us to keep the post office on the island. I'm sure that's, will not be an issue. Lastly, I want to say that I'm involved with Roosevelt Island Historical Society, and right now I'm helping to develop a section of the website on the research history of the island. I think history is invaluable, and I think the educational campus that comes is a continuation of that legacy.
Thank you.
I'm Jonathan Calkin. I served on the board for 3 wonderful years. It was just a wonderful privilege to serve the people of this island and try to figure out how to solve a lot of difficult problems. And what I learned over the past couple of years is that people thought I was a little bit too optimistic, and what I realized is we haven't even come close to reaching our potential. One of the things that I worked on from the beginning was the vacant storefronts with the retail master lease. I worked on it with the fellow board members for several years, kept at it day and night until it was completed. And I'm very excited about that. And I've heard that there's going to be a very, very big announcement pretty soon with a whole bunch of stores opening. And not only the stores opening, but a revitalized Main Street. In a really tough economy, which is really something that will not only add jobs, but will also give RIOC the revenue to preserve affordable housing. It'll allow this building 789 to be built, and the master lease, a lot of people may not know this, but it's a public-private partnership. So the RIOC benefits and gets some of the revenue from the profit from that deal. And this goes along with my second goal on the island, which was to preserve affordable housing. And one of the things that I tried to do from the beginning was try to get all the different agencies together with the help of our wonderful Assemblyman Michael Kellner. We got all the agencies together to meet at City Hall and to work and move forward on the River Cross ground lease extension, and now a lot of the Island House work is starting to get done, and hopefully move on with Westview. So I feel like we're almost there. And finally, one of the things that I tried to work on the island was to make this place one of the most innovative places in technology, and one of the most innovative places in the city. And now with Cornell coming here, I'm very excited to work with the university. I've been trying to work with the university for the past couple of weeks. We've been very successful in the past couple of months. And what I would like to do in order to preserve affordable housing is work on an island-wide energy plan, and plan with the schools, and work with the different communities on a community benefit agreement. So if I ask that you tell all your friends to vote on February 7th and to vote for me so I can help let the island reach its potential. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a vote here?
Oh, I have my choice of microphones. How about a stereo? Sorry. I haven't started my stopwatch yet, so...
Yours isn't official anyway,
Mine's not official anyway?
but I haven't started either, so.
Okay. Can I use yours?
Oh, sure.
Thanks. Okay, my name's Jerry Lombardi. And as a newcomer to this process, I've only lived on Roosevelt Island since 2007, and honestly haven't been that involved in things until recently. I've got the unpleasant obligation of trying to convince you to vote for me rather than for any of these illustrious people who we've got a long history of accomplishments. So let me actually piggyback on what I'm saying. Everything she said and everything he said, me too. Let me tell you why I'm running. It's going to sound simple, but I think it gets to the heart of the democracy that you talked about. I'm running because somebody asked me to run. And up until that point, I hadn't thought about it. Like all of you, and like the several thousand other people who didn't have a chance to show up tonight for this meeting, I had an opinion about a lot of things that were happening on the island, but didn't think that it was necessarily possible to have that opinion channeled in a way that was going to be really valuable and have any leverage at all with the people who actually make decisions about our lives. But I was convinced that that's not true, and that RIOC, the RIOC board, is one of those essential channels for making sure that our interests get paid attention to by people who have other interests in mind and are trying to reconcile their interests and our interests and a whole lot of other people's interests and come up with something that's viable. And so the RIOC board is an extremely important thing for us to, in a sense, nourish. And so even without having any pretensions about my future as a RIOC board member, I'm happy to be running because it sends the right message to Albany and to the people who are staff in RIOC. What else can I say about myself that I didn't already say in my statement in Wire? How about my opinion on certain things that are really, I think, going to affect Roosevelt Island in the next few years? And I've got 55 seconds to say that. Let me tell you what I think my philosophy is. I think the fact that we live on an island shows us that this is not just an urban space, but also a natural space. And I think one of the sort of philosophical points that we're going to have to always be careful to emphasize in all the decision-making processes that we face is to make sure that the natural environment that Roosevelt Island still has is not, I don't want to say destroyed because it's already on its way to being destroyed, and that's in some ways not necessarily a bad thing. But I want to make sure that the development plan that's still facing us, the Cornell development and all those other things, take into account the fact that we live in a natural space that has to be preserved as well. And I think that will be, 2 seconds, that will be one of the things that really guides my involvement on the RIOC Board of Finance.
Sitting RIOC board member. I joined the board in May 2009. I'm on the island about 8 years. I'm an actuary. I work in employee benefits and long-term security. When we came to the island from the Upper West Side, we discovered a very small and cohesive community that kind of surprised us with our energy. I quickly became involved with the affairs here. I was an alternate on RIOC. I became chief of the CERT team, this community emergency response team, and became aware of some of the challenges living in the island, part of Manhattan, with the roads of Queens, in the middle of the river, with infrastructure that was somewhat fragile, and became interested in running on the RIOC board when the elections first occurred in order to look out for those interests, and because of my nature, listening to various communities and various interests, trying to weigh a long-term solution to problems, perhaps be of value. When I was appointed to RIOC and served with Faye and Jonathan, I was on the audit committee, and that kind of aligns with my long-term interests. So whether because I was there, whether because we were lucky and fortunate in our current staff, we have a very solid financial background at this point. And that's very useful because when I got on the board and when I reviewed the nature of the problems facing us, many issues were the result of having thin finances for a number of years and relatively improved use of resources. So we've been in catch-up mode in the last number of years and fairly successful, I think. But the vision of Roosevelt Island is to be an urban experiment, a planning community. So that this goes quite along with what Jonathan has been talking about, that it's in our place and in our nature to be a showplace for interesting technologies, for new developments, new ways of doing things. He's been talking about community energy as a way of doing efficient heating. These are possibilities that we can try because we're small enough to be nimble. And that's a very, very useful quality in this environment. And certainly I welcome the coming of Cornell, but that's a long-term process. In the interim, RIOC is developing a long-term strategic plan that will hopefully bring all the various players forward. And that brings me to the most important point. I applaud Jerry for running. It's important in a small community like this that everyone who has a particular interest step forward, make themselves known, and bring their energy into solving the common good. We have an opportunity here to really take our future in our own hands. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Last but certainly not least, Lydia Tang.
Hi, my name is Lydia Tang, and I see a lot of very familiar faces out there. I've been living on the island for the last 17 years, and I've been very active in different aspects of the island. So if you haven't read what was in the wire, I've been active in the PTA, I've been active with the big after-school program right now. I'm helping kids learn mathematics. The last, 14 years I've been a math professor, and the 10 years before that, I was working on Wall Street. I have a lot of experiences that I think would be very helpful in making decisions for RIOC, and went to engineering school. I've had, different internships. I was working for the MTA. I scheduled buses and trains in Staten Island, and I worked for Con Edison, and also worked for an engineering company as well. So I'm hoping that if I am elected and nominated for the RIOC board, that those experiences will help me solve the problems that we need to solve as we go forward. I think we all have a vested interest in what's going to happen on Roosevelt Island because we live here, and I have children, and we all have friends. We want this island to be the best possible place to live, and that's why I'm running. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you to all the candidates for their opening statement. Now I have a particular treat. It's my great pleasure to introduce to you and to welcome friend of the island and our New York State Assembly member, Micah Kellner.